Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Wow, what a show today. I've been waiting to get this founder, this co-founder, this president, CEO on the show for a number of weeks. We love talking about people that are really changing the dynamic of their particular space. And one thing that we're very fascinated with, of course, is the oil and energy sector. Everybody's talking about it now. Everybody has their opinions about it. But one thing that's very interesting is there's a lot of younger people that are now taking the bull by the horns in this sector, and they're really changing the entire dynamic of the way in which people are thinking about it. Their technologies are doing such remarkable things in this sector. We wanted to invite a true leader on the show today. He has a very unique business, and it's called Earthview. And his name is Givhan, and he's the co-founder, president, and CEO of Earthview. He has a great business model. Really incredible. We're going to be learning about methane today because that's something that everybody needs to think about, especially since we're all sharing this world together. So we wanted to bring Bear on the show to talk about what his company's doing. And wow, he's getting hockey stick growth curve. Everybody's talking about what he's doing at Earthview. Bear, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Hey, Andy, so great to be on here. And I've also been looking forward to coming on and really appreciate you having me on here. And yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity.
I love it. So many people are talking about what you're doing at Earthview. Of course, it was just founded a few years back, but you're already doing such great work. We have so many questions. Before we get started, though, let's go. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet as we've become famous for, and tell us about Earthview, and then we're going to get into it.
Great. 30,000 feet, that's where I like to operate. At Earthview, we have recognized a problem in the oil and gas industry, and we're building a solution to fix it. And what is that problem, you might ask? Well, it's methane emissions associated with upstream production, midstream production. And what can we do to stop those emissions? And I guess at 30,000 feet, the first thing to ask yourself is, okay, well, why should I care about methane? What's the deal with methane? And really, I'll just tell you, it's a very potent greenhouse gas, and it just so happens to be the main component of natural gas. So methane is released in production. It's released and it has a lot of natural sources. Landfills are a big methane emitter. You got your feedlots, big methane emitters. But why should we care about it? And ultimately, it's because it's 84 times more potent than CO2 over a 10-year time span. So you're getting 85 times the warming effect of of carbon dioxide. So methane really, in my mind, represents a true low-hanging fruit in this battle to prevent climate change moving forward here. And so at Earthview, we're just really excited to be kind of part of helping our customers eliminate methane emissions and create cleaner fuel for our society.
Yeah, I love it so much. You're doing such a great job. When you watch TV or you're online watching streaming networks like we're on, or you read the online news, very few people are talking about methane. This is something that people aren't talking about, but people in the know, the people in the oil, energy, ecosystem, they're talking about it because they know that they need to do something about it. So when they reach out to you, Bear, and they reach out to Earthview, what's the conversation sound like with the people in the oil and the energy field about what you're doing to help them sort of figure out what to do with this methane and how to control it, how to, analyze it, how to make sure that it doesn't leak out of the systems?
Yeah, great question, Andy. And ultimately at this point, we're getting really positive feedback from the industry that's been, fairly slow to adopt new technology. I think any oil and gas executives out there would agree with me. But the problem is now, and in addition to methane being a potent greenhouse gas, it's also a valuable commodity. This is the product that these customers are trying to sell. So it's in their best interest to, what can we do to keep these hydrocarbons in the pipe? What can we do to, kind of up our sustainability reports? And how can we show that we're reducing methane emissions over time? And that's really where our solution comes in, because we're a continuous monitoring solution. So we're going to get you shoot 60,000 data points in 3 months. So it's for the bang for your buck is really, and just to kind of touch on my background a little bit, I've flown the research aircraft flying over these oil sites. I know, how that game is played, and it really kind of drove me to see like, well, how can we build something that when I zip over in my plane and I'm gone 20 seconds later, that site might start leaking and we won't know about it till I come back a year later. So how can we catch these leaks faster? Ultimately, is the operators are definitely interested in that, and just many different reasons. And it's all been positive though, which is great.
Yeah, I love it. You're a pilot. You fly over, these areas, and you said to yourself, there has to be a better way to disrupt this. And, we think about disruption. It's a word that gets thrown around way too often, obviously, in technology and business. But really, when we think about disruption and we think about its definition, I mean, your photo should be in the dictionary for what you're doing, because you're really disrupting and improving upon the way in which, the industry monitors, detects, and really fixes these hydrocarbon leaks for the better by leveraging your new technology and, of course, their existing infrastructure. It's really incredible. When we think about it, let's talk about how it works. I mean, people might be saying to themselves, what is it? Is it a machine, or is it how does it all get put together? Don't, bring us into the weeds, because it's going to get too technical, but tell us at a high level how it works.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So as much as I love to get into the weeds on the technology, I will try not to, but ultimately what we do is we put 4 stationary monitors, 3 to 4 that go around a single well pad. And we are taking a lot of different data measurements. So in addition to methane, we're looking at, okay, what's the volatile organic compound, or VOC, which is associated with a lot of emissions. We look at wind data. We look at temperature, humidity, pressure. And the reason, Andy, we're looking at all of those different data parameters is because the ultimate goal of our product is to detect a leak. Do we have a leak there? Yes or no? Boom. No, great. We'll move on down the road, go to the next site. Oh, there. Okay, well, now let's say there is a leak there. The next question you're going to logically ask is, well, Bear, can your system tell me where the leak is coming from? And fortunately, we've developed a way to do that. But that goes back into the third question, which is, can you tell me how much I'm leaking? So to be able to locate the leak and quantify the leak are kind of the two really like core components of our product. And to quantify, you got to take a lot of different data, the wind being a big one. You got to characterize, what's the atmospheric boundary layer, which, for anyone out at home, it's, when you take off in an aircraft, you kind of feel the bumpiness for the first 10,000 feet. Captain says you can turn off your seatbelt. Well, that's the boundary layer. So we're really interested in that part of the, that part of the atmosphere, and how can we take all this data to build that picture so that we can get an accurate quantification, and then we can get an accurate location of the leak.
Wow, it's so interesting. Of course, the name, of the company says it all. I mean, when you think about Earthview, I mean, you have a map behind you. You're a pilot. You're looking at the view of the Earth below. You saw this big opportunity. Let's talk about it a little bit more. I mean, awesome. What areas of the world, or what areas of the country do you see Earthview really making the biggest impact right now?
So right now, we're making the biggest impact, I would say, out in these large oil and gas producing fields. So, I joke, this time last year, we didn't even know if we really had a market for this product. And now we've got maybe 120 or 150 sensors in the field right now. And we're hand building them in the shop. And I'm just one guy. I got a great team behind me helping build the product, develop the product, but we're operating all over the country. There's incredible opportunity just right here in the US. There's opportunity in South America. There's really opportunity anywhere where methane is emitted. And there are a lot of different sectors where this technology is applicable. But we are laser focused on helping the oil and gas industry clean up their emissions so that we can sell our gas to Europe for a higher price. There's all sorts of market drivers going on here.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And of course, you mentioned it's not only about the leaks, but this methane has a value for the people that are producing it. So let's talk about that. That's pretty fascinating.
Absolutely. Getting back to the ability to quantify a leak, right? Then we can put a direct dollar amount on this. which our customers love that because it puts them, well, it's like, okay, I'm losing, $150 an hour. If I don't check this for another month, that adds up pretty quickly. Especially as we see energy prices increasing, the value proposition for our product goes up as the prices of natural gas and oil also go up. Now, that's not to say it's not valuable when the prices are down, because you still don't want to emit. You want to have good practices in your environmental programs, but it's really kind of driving that factor. And heck, Andy, detecting one leak can pay for a whole year of monitoring just right there. I mean, we've been on pads where we've caught 7-8 leaks in a 4 or 5 month time period. So the question I always love to ask is, well, if we weren't here, when would you guys have caught these? Haven't really heard a good answer yet. So that gives me a lot of encouragement for kind of where our company's heading here.
Yeah, it's very powerful. We're going to watch this. This is going to be one of those great success stories, one of those great American success stories. Already is. I mean, 2019, you start and you're already out in oil fields everywhere. The interesting thing that you mentioned, Bear, is, I mean, you're building these in a shop. I mean, it's so fascinating that you came up with this idea, you and your co-founder, and you decided to change the world, make an impact with this great solution. Let's talk about that. I mean, you've got a shop, you're building these components. I mean, you must be working 24 hours a day as an entrepreneur right now.
It never turns off, Andy. I'm sure that you're the same way. Always thinking up here, how can we make the product better? What do our customers want? How can we, provide better data? But I would love to touch kind of the origin story of Earthview, because it's pretty unique. And I'm not a super tech guy. I can be dangerous, but I'm not programming. I'm not writing the code. I've got a really amazing CTO, Duncan Brandt, don't steal him, anyone watching this, but he's an absolute, we wouldn't have this product without him. And I want to make sure he gets the credit here too, but he's also one of our co-founders. And then the origin of our instrument. So it was developed by our chief scientist, Dr. James Mislonic, who is a climate scientist by trade. And has a lot of experience up in the Arctic, down in the Antarctic. And a big problem that we have up in the Arctic region is methane related. And as the Earth heats up, the ice melts, and ice has a pretty strong albedo effect. So it pushes a lot of light back. So we get kind of a compounding effect. So the hotter it gets, the more the ice melts. And under the ice right now is something called permafrost. And permafrost has all sorts of interesting issues, but our chief scientist was wondering, well, I'm curious about the methane release from permafrost. What does that look like? And his idea was to take a low-cost sensor. This is back in like 2007. So, he was putting these on drones and flying them all around the north slope of the Arctic. And the thing with the drones back in the day, and probably still a little bit now, is that they like to crash and they do their own thing. And you don't want to put a really expensive instrument on there. So he developed what we call the Jack Kelby version, way back in the Arctic. And we've since taken that with Duncan's just incredible ability to build hardware and software, and really built it out into a platform that can sit out in the field, monitor continuously, and provide valuable data. So we've kind of gone the full circle here. We got a lot of experience in the climate area. And we're just, really stoked to be at this point.
Yeah, you have a great leadership team. You're surrounded by so many other talented people that all bring something different to the table. And that's a great lesson for entrepreneurs, to surround yourself with people that bring something different to the table so that you can collectively make a great team and a great business. Now, let's talk about data. Okay, you mentioned data. Where does the data go? Does it stay in the machine? Does it get transferred via, the cloud? How does it get to where it's going so you can analyze the data?
It does, yeah. So we've got a number of ways. So the devices sit out in the field, and the objective is to connect them to the internet. And so we'll do that a number of ways. We can take advantage of Wi-Fi already on pad. We can connect to the cell network, and we can plug into an Ethernet cord. But really, those are kind of the three main ways that we're getting the data out. And we'll send a sample every minute. And that data goes back into our, guys would laugh at our server right now, but we basically have a server stack of Raspberry Pis. That's what we use right now. We're in bootstrap and startup mode, but we keep all the data. We process it in-house. We run a number of company-developed algorithms that correct for temperature, humidity, pressure, anything with that kind of is a drawback to these sensors, we eliminate in the software. And then we take that, our goal is to get to a methane concentration number, which is generally in parts per million. And then from there, we can then take the other data we're collecting, the wind, the temperature, humidity, and then get into that quantification and localization. So there's a lot going on in the data pathways there, but it's something we've all built from scratch, and it's just, yeah, we got a lot of data. Let's just put it that way.
Wow, it's going to be so powerful to watch this growth and this amazing story that you've got with your team, Bear. Let's talk a little bit about oil and energy, because when I'm thinking about it, it's rough and tumble, and things are hammering along, and there's metal and all kinds of things that are really need to be built to last. So let's talk about this. I mean, when we think about what you're doing, Bear, I would imagine this system that you're putting in really needs to be able to take a beating.
Absolutely, Andy. I mean, we're dealing with climates, anywhere from, my home state of Texas, where it loves to get, 120 degrees, all the way to beautiful Denver, Colorado, where it likes to get to negative 20 degrees. So we're building hardware that can operate through that range of conditions and operate at a 95% plus runtime. The oil and gas industry is big on uptime, and we take that to heart and try to implement that into our hardware. And, as a startup building hardware, for any entrepreneurs out there, it is difficult. You're going to have setbacks, but it's so worth it once you get it working, you get it functioning, and just understand that, the setbacks are coming. And it's just how you're able to embrace them and how your team's able to adapt to them. But that's a big challenge. It's definitely getting these things to connect to the cell network. What happens when AT&T tower goes down, which does happen, not pointed at AT&T, it could happen to Verizon, T-Mobile, any of the providers. But how do we kind of account for that? Because there's a lot of things that we depend on to get our data to the client ultimately.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So much to think about. It's such an important thing that you're doing. And one thing that really resonated for me when I'm thinking about it for the oil and energy companies is they're doing something where they also want to make an impact to lessen the negative impact on the environment. So for them to be able to bring in one of your machines or a group of your machines to be able to mitigate the methane release and be able to say to the world, look, we're doing something important here with the methane by controlling it and learning about it. And we have sensors in place, through a company like Earthview. I mean, that I hate to say it, but from a public relations standpoint, is very, very important for these companies as well.
Absolutely. And, not only from a PR standpoint, but we provide the data that allows them to show that emissions reduction. So, I said I wasn't going to get too much in the weeds here, but I'll just give you an example of another place this tool is really powerful. So oil and gas pads have a lot of different components. You got your tanks that store the oil and produce water. You've got separators that separate oil, gas, and water. You've got compressors that compress the gas and put it into a pipeline. All of these things can leak. And what we're able to do is provide operational data to the ops team that says, hey, this particular separator has leaked 5 times this year. Maybe we should allocate some operational dollars to fixing this separator, whereas before they might not have that data. So we're using the data to help them actually improve their pads to make them more efficient and make them leak less, so that we're still there to monitor so that they can say, look, a year down the line, look at how much we've dropped our methane emissions for this particular pad. Here's the numbers to back it up.
I love it. I mean, it's just so important. And what they're getting from it really is they're fixing the inefficiencies and the limitations that have been associated with the way in which they've done business for so long. And now there's this new technology, this new hardware platform that can help them change the world. And it's just fantastic. When we think about going worldwide, because I know, Bear, you're a big thinker, you've got the map behind you, where do you feel from a worldwide standpoint, besides the United States, are going to be the next areas where we're going to be seeing so many of the Earthview, technology components go in?
Andy, that's a really interesting question because I've been having some really kind of great conversations with some producers down in, Brazil, Colombia, just to name two examples, Ecuador, really anywhere where oil is produced, the methane is a problem. And continuous monitoring, like the Earthview, our platform is called the Bluebird platform. They can be anywhere where oil and gas is produced. And, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. I get to go down to Colombia and talk about the product and let them know that we're here and that it's working great up here in the United States. We've got just a whole laundry list of leaks that we've caught and detected at this point. But I'm really excited about kind of some of the South American stuff, and even looking up to our neighbors on the north in Canada. They already have a pretty regulated oil and gas industry, so I imagine that they're going to be great partners up there. But fortunately, the U.S. represents just such a big opportunity. It's all great. So anywhere in the world where they produce oil and gas, I'd love to have an Earthview sensor there.
I love it. And of course, the United States does have, a great opportunity for what you're doing. I'm so excited that I've gotten you on the show early in your entrepreneurial journey with what you're doing at Earthview, because I think in another year or two, I won't even be able to book you on the show. So I hope you remember me,
Oh, absolutely. He'll be able to book me. Don't worry.
I love it. Let's talk about entrepreneurship, because listen, we have younger entrepreneurs watching the show. Maybe they're hitting a roadblock. Maybe they're hitting a pothole in the road. I know in your journey, you've hit some challenges along the way that you've, figured out how to get through. So maybe for the other entrepreneurs watching the show, Bear, you could share with them some insight about what it takes to get through a tough time as an entrepreneur and come out the other side feeling very empowered that you went through that problem and got through it. And now you're, feeling much better about going through the challenge.
Well, Andy, you mentioned it first right there, is you're going to go through tough times. That's just the name of the game, being an entrepreneur. People are going to be skeptical of what you're doing. They're going to doubt your credibility. They're going to tell you it's a dumb idea. And ultimately, you got to surround yourself with a great team of co-founders, a great team that really believe in the mission, right? You got to be mission oriented. Like at Earthview, our mission is to reduce methane emissions. And whatever we have to do to accomplish that mission, we're going to be successful. And you're going to have competitors. They're going to have bigger budgets than you. That's just a fact of life. We've got a few of them right now, but you can win on your energy, on your perseverance is huge. Taking care of yourself. I'll tell you, there was times when, even last fall, it was like, not really sleeping, and it really started to affect my work. And I had to pull back, make sure I'm exercising, I'm eating right. Exercise is absolutely crucial. I'm sure COVID got to a lot of people, but it got to me, and I kind of lost my exercise routines, but I've gotten back into it this year, and it's been night and day. So take care of yourself, surround yourself with great people, and focus on the mission, and just be ready to persevere.
I love it. What great advice for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show. Rewind what Bear just said. Certainly so important to take care of yourself. And as entrepreneurs, we go. And sometimes the last thing on that list of things that are important to us is our health. Yeah. But really, that has to be the most important thing, because without your health, everything else kind of falls by the wayside, right, Bear?
It does. And I'll tell you too, Andy, one other thing that I was kind of shocked at is just be ready to make a lot of decisions all day. That's your job. You're making decisions, and ultimately you're not going to have all the information, but it's better to make a decision, stick with it, and pivot down the line, and be ready to admit that you were wrong. That's just a fact of life. If you can stand there in front of your guys and say, look, I was wrong about this, you're going to win their respect and you're going to win their loyalty. And that's ultimately what comes down to being an effective leader, is how
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Great advice. I didn't mean to step on you there. That's fantastic. Again, rewind what Bear just said, it reminds me, about a story about decisions. When I married my wife 20 years ago, coming up this April, we had a conversation, and we said, I'll handle all the big decisions and you'll handle all the little decisions. But what I didn't know, Bear, was that there are no big decisions.
Yeah.
Right. So as an entrepreneur, that's a joke that we tell, but as an entrepreneur, you're always making decisions and, you're on the fly. That's why it's so important, Bear, that you've surrounded yourself with your great leadership team, Duncan and everybody else that's there, that's helping you along the way to sort of help work the path to change and reduce methane emissions throughout the world. It's a great mission that you have. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today. This has been awesome. I couldn't wait to get you on the show. I love your passion. I love the story. I love what you're doing at Earthview, and congratulations on your entrepreneurial journey, your success. And we look forward to seeing just incredible things out of Earthview in the future.
Hey, Andy, I hope to not disappoint, and I really enjoyed coming on the show. And I hope that, it helps someone kind of take the plunge, because it's truly one of the most rewarding things I've ever gotten to do is try to build a company from scratch. I mean, it's just the coolest feeling, raising money, getting clients. I mean, all that stuff is great, but those points come few and far between, right? So it's how do you deal with the daily grind between those points to get to success?